Hey friends, before the story begins, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that whenever we bring a new story, you get it first. If you have trouble sleeping or your mind feels restless, then this story is especially for you. So let's begin. The night was quiet in the scrapyard when everything changed. The scrapyard was a lonely place filled with broken ships, rusted metal, and forgotten machines. This was the place where the human child lived. Small, thin, and always searching for food or something useful. Life was hard, but he had learned to survive by watching, listening, and staying brave even when he was scared. Every night he liked to look at the sky. It was the only beautiful thing he had. The sky made him feel like there was more to life than metal and dust. Sometimes he saw falling stars or old ships burning as they entered the atmosphere. But on this night, the sky brought something different, something brighter and more powerful than anything he had ever seen. A huge ball of light tore across the darkness, glowing like a burning sun. It moved so fast that the air roared around it. The child felt the ground shake under his feet. Sparks flew across the sky, painting a long trail of fire. The object looked alive, like it was fighting to stay in the sky but slowly losing the battle. Finally, it crashed into the mountains behind the scrapyard with a deafening explosion. Even from far away, the blast threw dust into the air. A strong, hot wind pushed through the scrapyard and made the metal towers groan and shake. The child stared at the mountains, eyes wide, heart racing. Something important had fallen, something big, something not from this world. Most people would hide after seeing such a crash, but the child was not like most people. Curiosity and hunger for adventure pulled him forward. Maybe it was a ship with food. Maybe it had tools he could use. Or maybe it carried something mysterious. Whatever it was, he wanted to see it. He quietly slipped between piles of metal and broken parts. He moved fast, careful not to wake anyone in the scrapyard. He had learned how to be quiet like a shadow. His feet stepped over wires and crushed pieces of machinery as he made his way toward the mountains. It took a long time to climb the rocky path, and the air grew hotter with every step. The sky above him glowed orange from the fire burning on the other side. His hands slipped on sharp rocks, and his legs shook from the climb. But he did not stop. Finally, he reached the top and looked down into the valley. There he saw the crash site. A giant crater smoldered in the ground. The rocks around it had melted like wax. At the center of the crater was a ship, if it could even be called a ship. It looked more like a living creature, with smooth, curved surfaces that shimmered like dragon scales. Colors moved across its surface, shifting from purple to gold like the ship was breathing. The child had seen many spacecrafts in the scrapyard, but nothing like this. This was something from a different race, a different galaxy, maybe a different time. Smoke rose from the cracks in the ship's hull. Sparks of bright energy flickered around it. The ship looked alive but dying, struggling to stay warm. Then something moved near the broken side of the ship. The child froze. His breath stopped. His heart hammered in his chest. Lying on the ground, curled up like a small animal, was a tiny creature with wings. Her wings glowed faintly, like embers of a dying fire. Her scales were soft and shimmering, covered in ash and dust. She looked weak, too weak. Her body shook as she tried to breathe. Golden light flickered around her every time her tiny chest rose and fell. The child slowly stepped closer. As he came near, the heat from the creature surrounded him, warm but not burning. The small dragon, because there was no doubt she was a dragon, lifted her head slightly. Her eyes opened just enough to show two glowing golden pupils staring at him. There was fear in her eyes, but also confusion and pain. She was not just any dragon. Her body had thin, delicate markings, soft, glowing lines on her forehead and wings. She looked like royalty, like someone important, someone powerful, if she was not almost dying. The child knew she needed help. He knew she would not survive alone. She was too weak to fly, too tired to even stand. She needed safety, warmth, and food, things he barely had for himself. But still, he could not leave her. Something inside him refused to walk away. Maybe it was because he was lonely too. Maybe it was because he saw himself in her small, trembling body. Or maybe it was because she looked like she trusted him, even though they had never met. He slowly reached out and picked her up. Her body was warm, almost hot, but he held her gently. She sagged against him, too tired to resist. She made no sound. She only rested her head on his shoulder, as if accepting him as the only safe place she had. The child carried her up the rocks step by step. Sweat dripped down his face, his arms ached. The heat from her made him dizzy, but he kept going. Behind him, the strange ship flickered dimmer and dimmer like the last heartbeat of a dying star. But something else was watching from the darkness. Hidden behind smoke and broken stone, a small red lens blinked. It zoomed in, recording the child and the dragon princess he was carrying. The machine watched silently, collecting data, sending signals. Someone far away received the message. Someone who knew what the small dragon really was. Someone who would stop at nothing to take her back. The child did not know it yet, but the moment he lifted the dragon princess into his arms, his simple life ended. The galaxy had taken notice of him. His journey had begun, and danger was already coming. The ship looked alive but dying, struggling to stay warm. Then something moved near the broken side of the ship. The child froze. His breath stopped. His heart hammered in his chest. Lying on the ground, curled up like a small animal, was a tiny creature with wings. Her wings glowed faintly, like embers of a dying fire. Her scales were soft and shimmering, covered in ash and dust. She looked weak, too weak. Her body shook as she tried to breathe. Golden light flickered around her every time her tiny chest rose and fell. The child slowly stepped closer. As he came near, the heat from the creature surrounded him, warm but not burning. The small dragon, because there was no doubt she was a dragon, lifted her head slightly. Her eyes opened just enough to show two glowing golden pupils staring at him. There was fear in her eyes, but also confusion and pain. She was not just any dragon. Her body had thin, delicate markings, soft glowing lines on her forehead and wings. She looked like royalty, like someone important, someone powerful, if she was not almost dying. The child knew she needed help. He knew she would not survive alone. She was too weak to fly, too tired to even stand. She needed safety, warmth, and food, things he barely had for himself. But still, he could not leave her. Something inside him refused to walk away. Maybe it was because he was lonely too. Maybe it was because he saw himself in her small, trembling body. Or maybe it was because she looked like she trusted him, even though they had never met. He slowly reached out and picked her up. Her body was warm, almost hot, but he held her gently. She sagged against him, too tired to resist. She made no sound. She only rested her head on his shoulder, as if accepting him as the only safe place she had. The child carried her up the rocks step by step. Sweat dripped down his face, his arms ached. The heat from her made him dizzy, but he kept going. Behind him, the strange ship flickered dimmer and dimmer like the last heartbeat of a dying star. But something else was watching from the darkness. Hidden behind smoke and broken stone, a small red lens blinked. It zoomed in, recording the child and the dragon princess he was carrying. The machine watched silently, collecting data, sending signals. Someone far away received the message. Someone who knew what the small dragon really was. Someone who would stop at nothing to take her back. The child did not know it yet, but the moment he lifted the dragon princess into his arms, his simple life ended. The galaxy had taken notice of him. His journey had begun, and danger was already coming. The child moved quickly through the dark mountains, holding the weak dragon princess close against his chest. Her body was hot, almost like holding a small burning star, but he did not let go. Every few steps he felt her chest rise slowly, then fall again with great effort. She was still alive, but only barely. The night air outside the crater felt cooler, but the child's mind was burning with worry. He had never cared for another creature before, not even a small animal. Yet now he carried someone who looked delicate and royal, someone who could die if he made one wrong choice. As he climbed down the rocky slope, loose stones tumbled under his feet, but he kept his balance. The moonlight helped him find the path back to the scrapyard. Every shadow seemed larger than usual. Every sound felt sharper, almost dangerous. Something inside him kept whispering that he was not alone, but he pushed the thought away and hurried on. At the edge of the scrapyard, he slipped through a narrow gap between two piles of metal. The dragon princess stirred lightly, her wings twitching with a faint glow. He froze, worried someone might see the light. If anyone found her, they would take her away, or worse. He knew how the people here treated anything unusual. They would sell her, experiment on her, or hand her over for a reward. He could not let that happen. He moved deeper into the scrapyard, where the shadows grew thicker and the metal towers blocked the moonlight. The place was a labyrinth of broken ships stacked on top of each other. Old engines lay half buried in sand. Wires dangled like dead vines. The smell of oil and rust filled the air. This place was grim, but the child knew every corner of it. He went toward his secret hideout, an old cargo container buried under two crashed ships. Its door was bent and rusty, but inside it was safe from the cold, the wind, and the eyes of others. He squeezed through the small opening, pulling the dragon princess gently after him. Inside, the air was dusty but warm. The floor was covered with blankets he had collected. Old cloth, scraps of fabric, anything soft he could find. He placed her carefully on the thickest blanket he owned. She lay there, wings curled around her small body, breathing weakly. The soft glow of her scales created a faint light inside the container. For a moment, the child simply stared at her. He had never seen anything so fragile and beautiful at the same time. He sat beside her and watched as the glow on her wings flickered like a struggling flame. He realized she needed warmth, so he pulled another blanket and placed it over her. Her chest rose a little higher, as if she felt safer now. The child's stomach growled, reminding him that he had not eaten since afternoon, but he ignored it. Instead, he reached into a small corner of the container where he kept his treasure, a few old metal cans of food. He opened one and tasted it to make sure it was not spoiled. Then he gently placed the can near the dragon princess, hoping the smell of it might help her regain strength. For a long time, she did not move, but after several minutes, her nose twitched slightly. A faint golden mist rose from her mouth, a tiny sign of life. The child watched her with quiet hope. But far away at the crash site he had left behind, the danger he sensed earlier slowly came to life. A metal creature crawled out from behind the wreckage, thin, spider-like, with glowing red lenses for eyes. Its legs moved silently, leaving no marks on the ground. It scanned the crater, then scanned the air, detecting the faint heat trail left behind by the child and the princess. The creature lifted its head, and a sharp signal pulsed from its main lens, an alert sent across the sky to someone beyond the mountains. The hunt had begun. Back in the scrapyard, the child sat near the princess, fighting sleep. His eyelids grew heavy, but he forced them open again and again. He was afraid she might stop breathing if he fell asleep. He placed his hand gently on her back. Her scales were warm, and for the first time that night he felt her heartbeat, slow but steady. It was enough to keep him awake. Hours passed, and the sky outside the container shifted from dark blue to pale gray. Dawn was approaching. The scrapyard began to stir with distant noises, people moving, metal clanking, machines rumbling. The child felt panic rise in his chest. He knew he had to keep her hidden. If anyone saw even a glimpse of her glowing wings, the entire scrapyard would come running. He pulled an old tarp halfway over the container entrance to block the outside light. The dim glow from the dragon's body now filled the space with a soft, golden color. It made the metal walls look warmer and less lonely. The child checked on her again. To his surprise, she was breathing a little better now. Her wings were still folded weakly, but they lifted slightly with every breath, releasing small sparks of warm light. He could not understand how she had survived the crash or how someone so important had ended up lost and dying on this forgotten world. But none of that mattered to him right now. She needed him, and he would protect her, even if the galaxy came for her. The container trembled suddenly. The child froze. The dragon princess twitched in her sleep. He held his breath, listening. A heavy thud sounded outside, metal hitting metal. Then another thud, and another. Slow footsteps, too heavy to belong to any human in the scrapyard. The child's heart pounded painfully inside his chest. He crawled to the entrance and peeked through a tiny crack in the tarp. A shadow moved between the piles of ships. A large, tall shape, too smooth, too shiny, too silent to be human. A machine, perhaps, or something worse. Its eyes glowed faint red as it scanned the scrapyard, searching for a heat signature, searching for her. The child's hands shook. He pulled the tarp closed again and pressed his back against the metal wall, trying to stay quiet. The dragon princess stirred behind him, sensing danger even in her weak state. Her wings flickered with a soft golden pulse. The footsteps grew louder. The child realized something terrifying. Whatever had fallen from the sky with the dragon princess was not the only thing that arrived that night. Something else had followed. Something that would not stop until it found her, and now it was right outside his hiding place. The scrapyard was supposed to be a graveyard of dead machines, a place where nothing powerful or important ever happened. But on this morning, the scrapyard felt alive. Alive with danger. The child remained inside the old container, sitting completely still, listening to the slow, heavy steps outside. Each step sounded like metal pressing into the earth. Not fast, not rushed, patient. This was the walk of something that knew it would find its target eventually. The dragon princess lay behind the child, still weak but no longer fading. Her warm glow flickered softly in the darkness. Every time she breathed, the air around her seemed to hum. It was a gentle sound, but to the child, it felt like a beacon, something that could easily give away their hiding place. The child held his breath. Outside, the footsteps stopped. A faint mechanical whir filled the air, cold and emotionless. Then a red light swept across the metal walls of the container, cutting through the cracks like a blade of fire. The child crouched lower. His heartbeat felt loud, too loud, as if even that could be heard. The red light moved slowly, scanning every corner. The child wished he could cover the dragon princess's glow completely, but he could not risk touching her again. Her body was still too hot. He grabbed an old sheet of metal and shielded her as best he could. The glow dimmed slightly, just enough to blend into the shadows. The red light passed by. Then came silence, but the silence was worse. Silence meant the machine was listening, searching, calculating. The child stayed frozen until his legs ached. Only when he heard the heavy steps moving away did he let out a slow, silent breath. But he knew the threat was far from gone. Whatever that creature was, it had not given up. It was only beginning. Outside, the metal hunter moved between the tall piles of scrap, its red eyes glowing brighter as it scanned deeper. It was shaped like a tall, armored suit, but far too smooth to be human-made. Its limbs were long and flexible. Its body had no symbols or markings, only a single glowing lens at the center of its head. It was a tracker, a seeker, and it was following a trail most living beings could not detect. A trail of faint star energy left behind by the princess, the last surviving member of a royal dragon bloodline. The machine paused near a large broken engine. Its head tilted slightly as its sensors picked up something faint, the ghost of royal energy. The child had passed this spot earlier in the night. The hunter turned sharply toward the inner scrapyard, toward the child's hiding place. Inside the container, the child understood something frightening. He could not stay here forever. The hunter would eventually return, and the princess would not survive another chase. If it found her, it would take her away or kill her instantly. He looked back at her. She lay still, her wings wrapped around her small body. Her breathing had improved, but she was still too weak to stand. Her glowing markings pulsed gently, lighting the inside of the container like a small sunrise. She needed safety, she needed time, and he needed to move. Quietly, he began gathering anything that could help them survive. 2 blankets, a metal can of food, and a small toolkit he had collected over the years. He worked fast, his hands shaking, his mind racing. As he prepared to leave, the princess stirred slightly. Her eyes opened halfway, revealing soft golden light. She was awake, but barely. She watched him, confused but trusting. She did not fear him. Somehow she knew he was trying to protect her. The child lifted her again with great care. She felt lighter now, but weaker. Her wings hung loosely and her warmth had faded to a softer heat. He wrapped her in a blanket and held her close. He squeezed through the narrow opening of the container and stepped back into the scrapyard. The early morning sun barely touched the ground, blocked by mountains of metal. Long shadows stretched across the area like giant claws. The air felt tight, heavy with danger. The hunter was no longer visible, but the child could sense its presence nearby. He moved carefully between the piles, keeping low, his feet silent on the dust. Every sound felt too loud: the crunch of sand, the rustle of fabric, the soft pulse of the princess's breath. He made his way toward an old tunnel hidden behind stacked engines. It was a dark passage that led beneath the scrapyard, a secret path many children used to hide or escape trouble. The child had played in it many times before. No adult ever bothered exploring it because the entrance was nearly invisible. If he could reach the tunnel, he might find a safe place to hide until the hunter left. He slipped through the cracked entrance and stepped inside. The tunnel was cold, narrow, and smelled of damp earth, but it was safe, for now. He followed the path deeper, his eyes adjusting to the dark. The princess's glow lit the way, painting the walls with gold. They moved slowly through the underground passage until they reached a wider open space, an old storage room used decades ago before the scrapyard grew over it. Rusty shelves lined the walls. Broken tools lay scattered across the floor. But in the center of the room was a large, empty space, a perfect place to hide. The child laid the princess on a blanket and looked around for anything useful. There was nothing but old metal junk, but at least it was quiet. For a moment he allowed himself to breathe. But far above him, in the main scrapyard, a sharp metallic sound echoed. The hunter had found the container. The child felt a chill run through his spine. The hunter scanned the inside, it scanned the ground, it scanned the air. Then it found something, a piece of glowing dust on the floor, the faint leftovers of the princess's star energy. The hunter froze. Its red lens glowed brighter. Then with a low mechanical growl, it turned toward the hidden tunnels beneath the scrapyard, toward the child, toward the princess. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The day the dragons arrived on Earth should have been a warning, a sign that the quiet life of a small human, child and a hidden princess could not last forever. But for Aaron, the young boy who had once found a fallen star in a forest, the truth came much too late. Far above the clouds, the Dragon Empire moved like a living storm. Their ships were shaped like vast wings of metal, their engines burning blue as they scanned the planet for a missing heir. They searched with a desperate hunger, for the princess they had lost was not just a royal child, she was the key to holding peace across hundreds of worlds. And unknown to them, she was living in a tiny house, wrapped in a blanket, watching cartoons with the human boy who had kept her safe. But everything changed on the night her heartbeat glowed. The glow began softly, like fireflies gathering around her chest, and Aaron watched with confusion as her scales brightened with each passing second. The princess, still only a child, did not understand what was happening, but the forest understood, the sky understood, and the Dragon Empire above understood. A beacon was calling out, a royal pulse, a signal meant only for dragons, and it had awakened. Across Earth's sky, the first ship descended. Its shadow covered mountains, lakes and cities, and people ran outside, staring at the dark silhouette breaking the clouds. It did not attack. It simply hovered, scanning, searching. And deep inside the ship, the Dragon Queen felt her heart stop when she sensed the pulse. Her daughter was alive after all this time. But she also sensed something else. The pulse was mixed with human warmth. Someone had protected her child. Someone without dragon blood. Someone from a species the Empire knew little about. Aaron sensed danger long before the dragons reached his home. The air around him grew heavy. The trees whispered in strange winds. Animals began to flee the forest. He held the dragon child close, her glowing scales telling him that running would be useless. She was a beacon too bright to hide. Still he tried. He ran deeper into the forest, holding her small body against his chest as the glow intensified. The night was silent, almost waiting for what would come next. That was when the earth shook. A massive shape landed behind him, bending trees with its weight. Aaron froze, feeling warmth against his back, not fire but breath. Deep, powerful breath. When he finally turned, he saw a creature taller than any house he had ever imagined. A dragon soldier, armored in dark plates, eyes glowing gold. It lowered its head toward the human child, sensing the princess in his arms. The dragon did not roar. It did not attack. Instead, it bowed. But more dragons were coming, too many, too powerful. And behind them, the sky split open as the flagship descended, carrying the Dragon Queen. Her wings shimmered with ancient power, her presence bending the air as she landed with a force that cracked the ground. She scanned the forest with feverish desperation. Then her eyes found Aaron. Her lost daughter clung to the human boy's shirt, as if she trusted him more than anything else in the universe. The Dragon Queen took a step forward, and the soldiers around her lowered their heads. She approached Aaron, her enormous shadow swallowing the light around them. And yet, despite her presence and power, Aaron did not run. He simply tightened his arms around the princess, refusing to let her fall. The queen sensed his protective stance, and she felt a strange mix of gratitude and disbelief. A human, a species her empire barely acknowledged, had kept the princess alive, fed, sheltered, and loved. But before she could reach for her child, the forest erupted with violent energy. Something else had been searching. Something that did not belong to the Dragon Empire. Something that had caused the princess's ship to crash. A rival faction, cold, silent, and built from shadowed metal, had finally locked onto the beacon. Their ships tore open the sky with a scream of engines. They were not here to rescue. They were here to claim. And they cared nothing for the life of the princess or the humans below. The first blast struck the ground only meters from Aaron, throwing him into the air. The princess cried out, her small wings fluttering with fear as she clung to him. The Dragon Queen roared in fury, her soldiers spreading their wings to form a shield around the boy and her daughter. The attackers did not hesitate. They fired again, targeting the glowing child, targeting the heart of the Empire. The queen realized the truth instantly. The human boy was the only reason her daughter had survived this long. And now, if she did not protect him, both child and heir would die. With a single sweep of her wings, she surrounded Aaron and the princess with an energy barrier. Her soldiers launched into the sky to intercept the attackers, but the enemy ships were fast, darting through the clouds like predators circling prey. Aaron's mind raced. He was only a child, terrified and alone, but he understood one thing clearly. The princess trusted him, and if he ran now, she would be taken or killed. So he stood, trembling yet unbroken. He pressed his forehead against the dragon child's, promising silently to protect her, even if the universe fell apart around them. The battle above them intensified. Dragons collided with enemy machines, metal clashing against scales. Fire met plasma. Wings met warships. The forest turned to light and smoke. And as the sky burned, the Dragon Queen realized something she had never expected. This tiny human boy had more courage than many warriors in her army. He did not have claws, or fire, or wings, but he stood firm, refusing to abandon the princess even when death hovered a breath away. She watched him, and a decision formed inside her. A decision that would soon echo across the galaxy. The human child was not prey, not weak, not insignificant. He was worthy. And as the enemy prepared their next strike, the queen spread her wings wide, calling her forces to regroup, the war shifting in a new direction, a direction that would change everything. At that moment, a shadow fell across the forest. A new ship, larger, darker, colder, descended. The true enemy had arrived. The battle was far from over. The enemy ship that descended over the forest was not like the others. Its design held no curves, no marks of culture, no breath of life. It was shaped like a blade meant to cut worlds apart. Its surface absorbed light instead of reflecting it, swallowing colors until even the moon above dimmed in fear. This was the vessel of the Umbratech Legion, the silent hunters of wandering stars. They were neither dragons nor beasts. They were machines forged from ancient war, commanded by minds colder than the vacuum itself. And they had come for the princess. The air around the forest collapsed under a low, humming vibration as the Umbratech ship lowered itself. The trees bent, the earth cracked, and the sky folded as if something invisible pressed down on it. The Dragon Queen raised her wings to shield Aaron and the young princess from the crushing pressure. Her soldiers formed a defensive circle around them, but even they felt the energy pushing them toward the ground. Then, without warning, The humming stopped. A silence followed, so complete that even the injured leaves on the ground seemed afraid to move. The dragons stared upward, their instincts screaming danger. Aaron held the princess close, feeling her tiny heart racing against his chest. She sensed the threat too, pressing her head under his chin for comfort, and the Dragon Queen kept her eyes locked on the monstrous ship, waiting for the first strike. It came, silent, sharp, and merciless. A beam slashed across the battlefield, sweeping through dragon ranks like a scythe of pure darkness. Soldiers fell in an instant, their armor shattered, their wings torn by energy that did not burn, but erased. The queen roared, pushing her magic into the shield around the children. Aaron felt the air shake, the world shaking with it as if the forest itself was trying to escape. The Umbratech Legion had no interest in dragons. They only wanted the glowing child in Aaron's arms, the last surviving key that could unlock the Stargate, a hidden structure that the Legion had hunted for centuries. They had found a trace of it around the princess's birth, and now, with her glow active, they had found the exact position of the key. The Dragon Queen realized the truth too late. Her daughter was not only a royal heir, she was a living map, and the Legion intended to carve the map out of her. The Queen sent her strongest soldiers into the sky to intercept the next wave of attacks. Fire lit the air as dragons unleashed their ancient fury, their breaths shaping explosions across the sides of the Umbratech ship. But the metal absorbed every hit, turning fire into nothing more than fading sparks. The Legion did not react. It simply opened more ports on its hull, preparing a second wave, larger than the first. Aaron did not understand the politics or history behind the attack, but he understood danger when he saw it. He looked at the glowing princess, who clung to him with fear so pure it felt like a cold wind across his heart. He realized that if he stayed still, the Legion would reach them. But if he ran, he might lead the enemy away from the dragons and toward other humans. The thought shook him. The decision was impossible. Yet somewhere deep inside him, a strange calm began to grow. Humans were small, fragile, powerless compared to dragons or alien machines. But humans had something else, something no enemy could measure or predict. He had seen it in the stories his mother read to him, in the courage of people who had nothing but still chose to protect. That spark now lit inside him. He took a step forward. The Dragon Queen froze, shocked. The tiny human child that fate had tangled into their lives was standing, shielding the princess with his own body, even as the sky prepared to collapse around them. The queen felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but with awe. She had met warriors of many worlds. None stood like this child did now. The Umbratech Legion released their next attack. The ground split beneath their feet as a wave of black energy shot toward them. The queen tried to shield the children, but the force was too strong, pushing even her backward. Aaron stumbled, almost falling, but the princess wrapped her wings around him, glowing brighter, using what little power she had to protect him. Their combined light clashed with the darkness, and for a moment, the two forces met with a blinding flash. That was when something impossible happened. The pulse inside the princess resonated again, but this time it matched Aaron's heartbeat. Two rhythms became one. Two lights merged. A burst of white and gold exploded outward, creating a sphere of energy so pure the Umbratech beam dissolved on contact. The Dragon Queen stared in disbelief. This was ancient magic, older than her empire. Magic that only awakened when two lives were perfectly aligned in trust and protection. The princess had accepted the human as her bonded guardian, something dragons rarely allowed. The boy and the dragon child were now connected, their hearts intertwined, their lives linked. This changed everything. The queen's wings burst open with renewed her soldiers recovered, roaring with fury. The energy from the children spread outward, strengthening the dragons while weakening the enemy. For the first time, the Umbratech ship reacted. A low metallic groan echoed from its hull. The commanders inside recalculated. The map key was evolving. The human was now part of the pattern. They now needed both children. A new port opened, wider, deeper, more ominous. The legions were preparing to deploy their ground units. The forest shook as metal giants descended. Their bodies were shaped like tall skeletal machines with glowing red cores. They moved without sound, each step sinking into the earth. Dozens landed, forming a perimeter around the dragons. The Dragon Queen spread her wings and ordered her forces to form a wall. They did, but against machines built for extermination, the wall already seemed too thin. Then everything shifted in one heartbeat. The princess's glow surged, reacting again to Aaron's presence. The energy raced up the queen's barrier, spreading through every dragon in the field. Their scales brightened, their wings strengthened, their roars shook the ground. The bond between the human child and the princess was awakening power that had lain dormant for centuries. And as the Umbertech units charged forward, the Dragon Queen realized something that made her heart tremble. The child was not only a guardian, he was a catalyst, a force that could change the outcome of this war. The queen lowered her head, gathering the children behind her, preparing for the largest clash yet. She knew the next minutes would decide the fate of her empire and the fate of Earth. The machines began to run, the dragons began to rise, and the sky began to burn. The forest that had once been quiet and peaceful now stood on the edge of becoming a war zone that would be remembered for centuries. Smoke drifted through the shattered trees. The earth trembled under the weight of metal giants marching forward. Above, the Umbertech ship hovered like a dead star, swallowing the last traces of moonlight. And in the center of it all stood a human child, a dragon princess, and a queen who understood that the fate of many worlds rested on this one final moment. The first clash came without warning. The metal giants surged forward and slammed into the defensive ring of dragons. Fire burst across the battlefield as dragon flames met cold armor. The machines did not scream, did not hesitate. They simply advanced. Their motions were sharp and precise, each limb designed for destruction. They moved like a hive, each step part of a calculated pattern. The dragons fought with all their strength. Their breaths lit the night, their wings thundered against the sky, and their claws tore into metal. But the machines kept moving. When one fell, another took its place. When fire melted armor, more units dropped from the ship above. The Dragon Queen had known war before, but this was different. This enemy did not fear loss, did not fear pain, did not fear death. They only followed one command: take the children. Aaron held the princess close as the battle raged. Her glow had become brighter, wrapping them both in a pulsing warmth. The bond between them was growing stronger with every heartbeat, forming a shield made of life itself. But Aaron knew that if the machines reached him, the shield would not last. They needed a way to end the battle completely. Far above, the Umbertech ship opened its largest port yet. A massive sphere of dark energy formed inside it, an annihilation pulse, not designed to destroy life, designed to erase it. If it reached the ground, everything within miles, the dragons, Aaron, the princess, the forest, would vanish without a trace. The Dragon Queen sensed it instantly. She had seconds to act. Her wings opened wide, her scales brightening with the full force of her ancient power. She launched herself into the sky, breaking through the clouds like a bolt of living flame. She rose toward the ship, determined to stop the pulse even if it meant her life. The dragons on the ground roared in support, fighting harder to buy her time. But the machines sensed her intent. They redirected their focus. Half of the metal giants turned away from the battlefield and aimed their weapons at the sky, firing beams at the ascending queen. The queen dodged what she could, but the sheer number of attacks struck her wings and armor. She faltered, falling slightly before she forced herself upward again. The machines had predicted her move. They were prepared for sacrifice, but she kept going, driven by the desperate love of a mother who had already lost her child once and would not allow it to happen again. On the ground, Aaron watched with terror. He felt the princess trembling in his arms. Her eyes followed her mother, glowing with fear. Aaron wanted to run after her, to help, but he was just a child. He had no weapons, no wings, no fire, only the strange bond that tied him to the princess. Then something shifted. The glow around them pulsed again, stronger than before. The princess pressed her forehead against Aaron's, and suddenly he felt something flood into him. Warmth, ancient memory, royal power. It was as if the princess was sharing her birthright with him, allowing him to see the world through her eyes. He felt the heartbeat of the Dragon Queen, the roaring fires of the soldiers, and the cold hunger of the Umbratech ship. And then, deep within the glow, he felt something else, a connection. The princess was not only a key to the Stargate, she was also a communicator to the ancient systems that lay hidden around the galaxy. The energy inside her could awaken dormant structures, redirect forces, and even command starborn defenses, if she had a stable bond. Her bond with Aaron was the stability. The glow burst outward, forming a wave that rippled across the battlefield. Dragons felt their strength return. Machines hesitated, their sensors struggling to process the strange energy. The Queen, high in the sky, felt the power reaching her too, lifting her just as her wings threatened to fail. Aaron suddenly understood what he needed to do. Holding the princess tightly, he stepped forward into the center of the clearing. He raised her in his arms as her glow intensified. The light shot upward, piercing the clouds and striking the Umbratech ship directly. The ship reacted in shock. Its dark hull flickered, its systems failing to understand the energy signature. The annihilation pulse stuttered. The Queen saw the chance. She surged forward with every ounce of strength she had left, slamming her full power into the weak point of the ship. The moment her energy collided with the princess's beam, something extraordinary happened. The beams connected. The bond between mother, daughter, and human snapped into full alignment. The Umbratech ship began to collapse from the inside out. Its dark armor cracked. Its lights flickered. Its systems screamed in silent overload. Then in a burst of white gold light, the ship imploded. The shockwave spread outward, dissolving the metal giants on the ground and clearing the sky of darkness. The dragons roared in triumph. The forest breathed again, and the Queen, wings trembling, descended through the fading smoke. She landed in front of Aaron, exhausted but alive. She lowered her head until she was at his height. The princess reached out to her mother, but she did not release Aaron. She held both, one in each arm, dragon and human, her glow soft and warm. The Queen looked at Aaron with something no dragon had ever shown a human before: respect, gratitude, and something close to love. The war had ended because of him. A child with no power, no claws, no fire. Only a heart strong enough to protect someone who wasn't even his own species. The Dragon Empire would remember this moment for generations. Historians would write about the boy who defied a throne, who faced machines with nothing but courage, and who helped save a princess whose destiny shaped galaxies. But for Aaron, the moment was simple. He had saved his friend. The princess curled into his chest, her glow fading into a gentle warmth. The Queen lifted them both onto her back and spread her wings. The dragons formed a protective circle around them as the sun rose through the smoke-filled forest. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. A human child and a dragon princess, bonded by fate, would one day stand at the gates of stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.